thanks to the works of the archaeologists, we know now about the history of the valley, of the salt production in the valley. And as a result of the studies that they have performed, we know that the valley has been in use for at least 6,500 years. Apparently, during a period of about 4,500 years, starting 4,500 before Christ, people came to this valley to produce salt, but instead of evaporating in the sun like we do today, they used to evaporate over the fire. The idea could be that they took the brine in some clay vases, they would put them over fires that they made here in the area, and then when the brine evaporated completely, they would break those vases and they would take with them rocks of salt. That was the process until the Romans arrived in this area, which could happen around the 2nd century before Christ. It seems that the Romans were settled in a Roman settlement called Salioncar, about 5 kilometers away from here. From that settlement, they would come to the valley, produce the salt, and then take it back with them. But this time, they started building these pans like the ones we have today to evaporate in the sun. And that way, we have continued that tradition and that cycle of salt production almost the same for about the last 2,000 years. It seems that Salioncar was destroyed in a fire at about the 5th century after Christ. And then they decided to start populating this area to live closer to the place where they worked. For that time onwards, we will have some human settlements in this valley. At the beginning, in a more scarce, more dispersed way, and then little by little they would form little villages around small churches. That happens between the 6th and the 8th century after Christ. We don't have the town of Añana until the 12th century. At that time, the king Alfonso I gives some rights, some privileges to this villa, to this town that he wants to build in order to centralize all the production of salt. That way, he gives some privileges related to the properties that they can keep. He gives the population some protection, and that way, in less than 50 years, all the inhabitants of those villages end up moving to the new town of Añana. From that time onwards, this valley keeps expanding because the different powers, the different feudal and royal powers need more salt, give incentives to get more production of salt, and that way these constructions start occupying further areas of the valley and parts of the slopes towards the top of the hills. That happens until the 20th century, and the 20th century, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have some issues that make the salt production almost end. It doesn't end at all, but it comes to almost a total abandonment, and that happens because of the industry in the first place, and then because of the improvement also in the transportations. Due to the advancement of the industry, we get some new salts that are refined industrially, that also have some anti-caking agents, so that the salt doesn't become a rock again. And at the same time, thanks to the improvements and to the creation of refrigerators, the value of the salt drops tremendously, radically, and that way the salt produced here